All right, Coach. The second to last week of the regular season is upon us now. We already played last night here against Mars Hill. You come away with a 104-82 victory over Mars Hill. Talk about that game and also just kind of discuss it within the larger framework of how you kind of see the team coming together with just 3 regular season games left.
Well, I think we had, again, offensively, I thought we were pretty good most of the night. Did a nice job of spacing the floor and really guys playing aggressive but making the right basketball plays. And and this team, when it's at its best, certainly we've talked about this all year, is very connected and collective in how it attacks and how it generates shots. Look at our shot profile, shot distribution, all that stuff was pretty good. I think we had 5 guys in double figures and 2 more guys with 8, and not that is the be-all end-all, but it shows that the ball's being shared, and we had going in that final few minutes, I think we went up with 17 or 18 assists. So it was a good offensive performance. We didn't shoot it great, but we shot it well enough. And then, defensively, when we went back and watched film, it probably wasn't as bad as I initially thought last night. You got to give Mars Hill credit. They made some difficult shots. We got a pretty good contest percentage. I thought there was times, we weren't maybe as good on the basketball as needed to be. Some of our closeouts and stuff were pretty poor, and at times our help and rotations were not where they need to be. So stuff, you're always, working on from a technical aspect to clean up, to improve. And those are things, as the year goes on, and the games dwindle, and you want to be in a situation like I think we are in, where you're playing high stakes games here in end of February into March, that line gets high. And so those breakdowns that maybe you got away with earlier in the season because teams weren't as good, or maybe the opponent, the level fluctuates. When you get to a certain point, everybody's good. And it becomes a scenario where you got to lock in, you got to really lock down your controllables, you got to have your habits got to be on point on both ends of the floor. And so that's what we're pushing towards here as we get to the stretch run.
A tough closing stretch here, so I want to jump right into that. It all starts here for the final regular season home game against Catawba, who, you've talked about one of the best teams in the region. You could argue potentially the most talented team in the region.
Yeah.
A lot of line. On the line, obviously, you could win your 10th straight, or you could secure your 10th straight 21 season. But just run us through what you're expecting to see against Catawba on Saturday.
Well, I think they're as good as anybody in the region. They certainly, the margins a lot of times in years are small, and I think, obviously Queens is going to win the league, and deservedly so. They've been the best team all year. But you look at, I don't know how many games, maybe 6 or 7 that have been in the, inside of the final minute in a 1-possession game, and they've come out on top every single time, which is a huge part of being a champion, is being able to go and play your best down the stretch of games under pressure. Catawba's kind of had a little bit of the inverse. Twice against Queens, they've had them on the ropes and couldn't quite finish, and then similar deal with Anderson. So, but they're a great team. They're good enough to be playing in Evansville and deep into March. Everything you'd want from an ingredient standpoint. They have as good a 2-way players there is in the league in Jameel Taylor. They got extreme high level of experience. McLaughlin's a senior, he starts. McElveen's a senior, he starts. Marcel and Devin Cooper are transfers, but they're juniors, experienced guys who have played a good level. They come off the bench. Malik Constantine's a 4th-year junior. Daquan Lilly, I think, is a 4th-year junior. Ben Zamanix, transfer from Lenore Ryan, 3rd year. They have nobody that's green behind the ears. They got they're big, physical. I think they're probably the most physical team in the league on both ends of the floor. You really got to be able to match their physicality and not, you can't inside the game lose physicality at any point. They're great on the glass. They drive it hard. They just play with unbelievable force on both sides of the floor. You got to be able to offensively, be ball tough and be assertive and certainly stay aggressive. And then you got to make the right plays. They do a good job of helping, and you very rarely get stuff, on the first side. So I think we're better than we were when we played them in January, but I know they're a lot better as well. So, we'll see. This is, as you get to this time of year, this is what it's about. You have to play great teams, and I think Catawba's a great team, and you got to play your best basketball. You got to be playing to your standards this time of year. We always talk about, as it gets to, and historically we've been pretty good February, March. I was telling the team when we lost to Queens, I think we had won maybe like 30 games in a row in February, going back over the years, and we've obviously had some good runs here in March. And to me, the common threads when you get to this time of year in terms of having success is the teams, what's the energy and spirit of the group, and how connected and how together are you, and it kind of manifests itself whether you look out there and guys are playing and our guys supporting each other. What's the bench look like? Guy gets knocked down or guys sprinting to pick him up and get their teammate up. Guy makes a mistake or guys pat him on the back, put their arm around him, lifting him up. What's all those interactions, and that really shows you kind of on where you are as a team. And the best teams, I think, at this time of the year, energy levels high, effort levels high, and they're unbelievably connected. So, that's going to be. I think we're progressing in those areas, and I think we guys are starting to kind of understand, what we need to do and how good we need to be, and also what it looks like when we're at our best, and who we need to be our best. And so, hopefully, we'll apply those things, because as we get down the stretch run, I don't know anybody who has a tougher 3-game stretch to finish than we do.
There's obviously been some up and downs this year and stuff, but you've had the injury bug you've had to deal with a little bit this year at times. There's been some offensive struggles at times too, but the defense has been pretty consistent. But it still sounds like, as we've gotten rolled along here, that it's the defense that you want to see still get cleaned up for you guys to reach your potential. Is that kind of how you see things? Yeah,
I think we can get better on both ends. There's always things that you can do, and you can do at a higher level. But certainly, I think defensively, you're constantly evaluating, and can we be better in defensive transition? Of course. Can we be better, protecting the paint and the line? I think for sure. Closeouts and ball screen coverages and the like. All that stuff. I think help rotations, all that stuff can be better. But offensively, there's still times, running our sets with pace, making sure that we're spacing appropriately in transition. We talk all the time. We want to play certainly fast, and we want to play free and with space and together. But we have to make sure that we're making the right basketball play. And again, we're wasting less possessions than we were certainly earlier in the year, even a month ago. In terms of not just turning it over, but just in our shot discernment, right? So it's a constant work to sharpen those things, because the better team you play, the less mistakes you're allowed. The higher, we always talk about hitting that line. That line gets pretty high, and if you make mistakes, you get punished. You gotta lock down all your controllables, and there's a lot of things in basketball you can't control. Making shots would be at the very top of that list. So, but you can control sprinting back and getting matched in trans. You can control your shot selection, right? You can control as best you can, trying to collectively protect the paint and individually get out and have the effort to play team defense and challenge everything at a high level. And certainly be a quality box out team, and make sure you're trying to finish possessions, and all the things that we emphasize throughout the year. I've always felt like has helped us this time of year, because the things that we talk about, I think, are the things that win, that translate us. It transcends, regular season, postseason, NCAA tournament, whatever the scenarios are. What goes into playing good basketball goes into playing good basketball, and that's the things we're going to have to do, and do them at probably a higher level than we have to this point, if we're going to be able to have success against the teams that we got to have success against down the stretch to try to play our way into the NCAA tournament.
I want to talk real quickly, because it's high time we talked about Emanuel Terry and what he's done since leaving here, and particularly in the last couple of months. He signs that 10-day contract with the Phoenix Suns, has a good little run with them, and now he just signed a 10-day contract with the Miami Heat. So just in the USA basketball, everything going on with him. Just talk about him.
No, it's great. It's been bad for me, because it's exposed. Like, I've had an NBA center and I couldn't win a national championship when you got an NBA 6'9" center in there. So for me, it's probably been bad. But no, for in all seriousness, what an unbelievable story for a guy. It was. I shared the text with the team last week. I think we're on the way to maybe either Newberry or Wingate, maybe. I think it was Wingate or Newberry. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it was Newberry. And Coach Spoelstra of the Heat had texted me about Emanuel, and obviously, talent's important, and we had talked before about him and his situation, but what he hit on and what he asked me about, and certainly what he said he had come to find out was there's nobody with better intangibles, in terms of a guy who comes in from a work ethic standpoint, from a guy who's a great teammate, from a guy who's coachable, who wants to be good. He's going to, first there, last to leave. Like, he's checking every single box, and how valuable that is, not just, to make it in the NBA, but that's a differentiator for him. And again, I shared that text with our guys because I wanted them to see, it's not just enough to be a good player, and it's bringing those other things to the table. But Emanuel, and I'll say this, he's as good a kid as I've ever coached in terms of just a human being. He had aspirations and talked about it even when he was, playing 6 minutes a game as a freshman, of playing in the NBA. That's always been a dream of his to achieve that. I don't know, the percentage of people. I think there's like 300 maybe and 60 players that are in the NBA in the world. I mean, it's remarkable, and to come where he's come from, to watch his growth, and for him to remain, as he's had all this success. And that was the thing I said last year when we went for the award ceremony. He was presented the National Player of the Year. Is the most amazing thing to me about Emanuel is all the success. He never changed. And you look at him as an NBA player, he's still the same humble, great kid. He still, responds if, whatever the scenario is. He's as good a human being as you could ever have, and you root for those guys to have success. So hopefully this will be a great opportunity for him. I know the Heat and talking to Coach Bolsher are really serious about him. They're committed to giving him an opportunity, whether it's there, back in Sioux Falls throughout the summer. So, we'll see where it goes for him, but his future is bright. And I told him, this is for me, from my end with him, this is a beginning, not an end. It's certainly great to achieve it, get in the NBA. But now it's the beginning, and now it starts. And so now the real work starts, and that's trying to stick and carve out a career. And I got tremendous faith that he'll do that.